Chapter 4 is about the best practices in business ethics for codes of ethics and codes of conduct. Remember in Chapter 3, we talked about hiring ethical people. There are times when ethical people can disagree about what's the best thing to do and how to apply ethics in a particular situation. That's normal. We see that all the time in politics where people disagree about what the right best policy is. And those kinds of disagreements are layered with ethical issues. So we just hired who's the best qualified person and the most ethical person for this job. What do we do now? Well, the next step is to introduce them to your code of ethics and your code of conduct. Many organizations now have codes of ethics and codes of conduct, mostly because of legal obligations and regulatory obligations. And codes of ethics and codes of conduct are very important and essential to have. So that's the reason why they're now being legally mandated. A code of ethics is different from a code of conduct. A code of ethics is a short statement. So for this particular chapter, there will be 7 benchmark items, and we'll go through each of those, beginning with benchmark item number 8. We have a code of ethics or value statement that articulates ethical expectations at work. Codes or ethics are usually short statements that can appear on a business card, and employees can keep them in their wallet and have them handy, or can distribute them on their business cards to suppliers to show that ethics really matters in the transactions that they engage in. One type of code of ethics will simply say, employees in this organization treat all stakeholders, meaning all other employees, the owners, suppliers, the customers, the natural environment, with utmost respect. Other organizations prefer a value statement, where a series of values are posted to say that these values matter. For instance, at Edgewood College, we have 5 values that matter a great deal, and those values are truth, justice, compassion, community, and partnership. And those values matter to the people we hire, and we mention those values during the hiring process to see if people are comfortable working for an organization that takes those values very seriously. So first of all, you want to make sure that you have a short and sweet code of ethics that is easy to communicate amongst employees. Keep in mind, these codes of ethics at times are difficult to live according to your life to within an organization. For instance, that sometimes you might have a conflict between, if you're the manager, between 2 employees, and you may not be able to treat both employees with utmost respect. Or the losing employee on a particular scarce resource distribution might say, "You don't respect me." You have to be able to argue that actually you do respect them, or sometimes it's just hard to respect everybody to the utmost. Sometimes you're not going to want to show respect to an employee who's stealing from the organization. So we run into these kinds of ethical issues all the time, and the code of ethics tells us that we want to aspire to these particular values and to these particular statements. But it's not that we always live up to them, because we're all morally flawed and we all make mistakes at times. But we wish that we can live up to these when we are living our better selves. Benchmark item number 9. We have an extensive code of conduct that provides specific examples of acceptable and unacceptable behaviors. Where a code of ethics can fit on your index card, a code of conduct is typically written by lawyers coming out of the HR office, and they might have tons and tons of documents and pages. Enron, their code of ethics, code of conduct, their code of ethics fit on a business card. Their code of conduct was 60 pages long. So the code of conduct is written by lawyers to make sure that the employees know all of the laws that they are liable for as an employee of the organization. For instance, the code of conduct might deal with gratuities, and it might clearly state that you cannot accept a $1,000 tip from a supplier because that's really a bribe. The code of conduct might say anything under 25 is acceptable, but anything over 25 is not acceptable. And if the supplier insists upon giving it, then that needs to be shared with all employees, and it can't be kept by you because it'll bias your decision making when you're looking at how to evaluate suppliers that are applying to be customers and clients of the organization. Benchmark item number 10. The Code of Ethics is mentioned in our organization's strategic plan. It's great to have your Code of Ethics on a business card. It's even a lot better that your Code of Ethics appears in your strategic plan. Strategic plans are live documents that are being updated all the time because of what's happening in the job market, what's happening in the competition, what's happening in your particular labor market, and in your customer market. So for all those reasons, strategic plans are updated, and you want to make sure that somewhere in the strategic plan, ideally at the very beginning, it says ethics matters in all the decisions that we make. Because ethics will then guide the strategic plans you create and who you determine to be a strategic partner. Ideally, you want to have strategic partners who are highly ethical. So you want to make sure that ethics is being used in determining who you're going to be partnering with. Item number 11. Codes of ethics and conduct are publicly displayed and available. Once again, you don't want to just have your code of ethics hidden somewhere. When I assign this as a homework assignment to my students and I ask them, find your organization's code of ethics, sometimes they can't even find it, even though the organization has it. If ethics is meaningful, you want to make sure that the code of ethics appears in very visible places. At Edgewood College, we have our values posted throughout the campus. Wherever you go, you'll see a banner that might say truth or justice or compassion. And it just reminds the employees and it reminds the customers and it reminds the suppliers that these values matter when they do business at Edgewood College or when they're employed at Edgewood College. So you want to have public visible reminders just so that it formulates deeply in the employee's subconscious when they're making their decisions. Benchmark item number 12. Managers vocally support our codes of ethics and conduct. Let's say I'm a manager and an employee comes up to me and says, I'm facing an ethical dilemma. How should I respond to that? As the manager, I want to make sure that the employee knows how to make an ethical decision. So I would just flip that decision back to the employee and say, well, what does our code of ethics say about that situation? So this way I'm training the employee to consistently looking at the code of ethics to figure out what is the right thing to do in this situation. If the code of ethics says we can't accept money from suppliers that are above $25, then that becomes a deeper in the consciousness of the employee that's making the decision. So I need, as the manager, to remind the employees our code of ethics is a live document and it really matters when we're evaluating employees and when we're evaluating suppliers and determining who we want as our steady customers in our partnerships. Benchmark item number 13. All employees are trained to implement our code of ethics and conduct. It's one thing to have words on a piece of paper. It's something else to apply those words in real-life situations. So in your organization, you want to have workshops that are focused solely on the code of ethics. So the employee will look at the code of ethics, they look at a scenario that might have an ethical dilemma, and then you ask the employees in the workshop, how does this code of ethics apply in this particular situation? Once again, playing around with the gratuities, let's say the supplier insists upon giving you a $500 donation because you're, let's say, $500 worth of tickets to a football game. Should you accept it or not? You would have that as a workshop item for the employees to play with in the workshop under your facilitation or by the facilitation of HR or by being facilitated by an employee that everybody trusts. So in these workshops, you have each individual look at the code of ethics, decide, does this support the code of ethics or does this violate the code of ethics? And then you put them in small groups and they discuss it. What is the right thing to do in this particular situation? Another dilemma might be a supplier has the best price. However, my spouse is working for that organization. Is it okay for me to buy the product from this organization that employs my spouse? Some organizations have codes that say absolutely not. Others will say it depends. You can do business with your spouse's organization as long as it's transparent, as long as you tell HR, as long as you tell your boss. You just can't do it on the sly. You just can't do it as a gray item. You want to be very transparent in these transactions. And you discuss that in the ethics workshops with the codes of ethics. Benchmark item number 14, which is the last benchmark for this chapter. All employees participate in an annual ethics code survey to determine how well our organization is living up to the code. I've conducted many workshops, and these are very energetic when we deal with applying the code of ethics for the organization's activities. The textbook mentions the code of ethics for NSI. And in the NSI code of ethics, one of their items is we will operate with integrity and respect. Another code is provide and promote legendary service. So basically, all you have to do is take your code of ethics, which is short and sweet, and turn it into a Likert 1 to 5 scale, and have your surveys fill in that scale using strongly agree to strongly disagree. So let's say the item operate with integrity and respect. The survey item would be, do our managers operate with integrity and respect? A 5 score would be, you strongly agree that they do. A 1 score would be, you strongly disagree with that statement. And then you do that for every item in the code of ethics. So if you just have 5 items in your code of ethics, you're managing the perception of employees have toward managers on each of those 5 items. And then do the same thing with the non-management employees. On a 1 to 5 scale, ask the person taking the survey, do non-management employees operate with integrity and respect? And you collect that information and you share that information with the employees in workshops. Then what you want to do as a manager, I'm sure there are certain areas in your code that your organization excels in. So you want to praise the good and you want to say, we do a great job in providing legendary service. And the employees can feel really good about that. But let's say employees don't always act with utmost respect. Let's say employees like to play solitaire all day long on their computer because they're having some downtime. Well, that's disrespectful toward the shareholders and to the boss, because I'm sure there's other kinds of work that an employee can be doing. So therefore, that might have a low score. If it has a low score, you want to talk about that. Tell a few stories about why that score is low, but don't spend too much time on telling the stories. What you want to spend your time on is, what do we need to do to turn that weakness into a strength? And one of the things might be simply to make sure that all employees realize that they shouldn't be playing solitaire all day long on their computers. And you might want to include that as part of their performance evaluation. So you want to be very clear that these things matter in the organization. So taking your code of ethics and turning it into a survey gives you immediate feedback as a manager in terms of what is the organization's ethical performance strengths, what are its weaknesses, and then developing strategies to transform the weakness into a strength. And when the employees see this, they take ethics extremely seriously in everything that they do.